Chapter 15. Outfitting. Before the Tyrannosaur fell, while it was still after Troy, looking as if it might get him, Tarosh stood outside Deep Core Station, watching the distant spectacle through, binoculars, ready to give the signal to set off the Jellianite planted halfway between the base and the rampaging creature. As the creature made its last lunge at Troy, Tarosh raised his hand. Now? Sal Venetti asked, crouched next to the detonator.
Wait,
Tarosh said. He put his hand back on the casing and adjusted the focus. The sound of the Tyrannosaur hitting the ground resonated like thunder above the storm winds. Tarosh lowered his binoculars.
He's down.
Proskov, Belin, and Benson arrived at that moment out of breath from having run almost a mile across ice-covered terrain. Proskov looked back over his shoulder, breathing hard.
Slava Bogu,
he muttered.
Yes, Dmitri,
Tarosh said.
Thank God. The job is done. No thanks to you, however, or the cowards who ran with you.
Proskov turned to him.
I am no coward. Perhaps not, Dmitri, but you'll have to prove it to me.
Tarosh pointed to the steel mesh net lying on the ice.
I want you to take that out there and cover the beast with it. Then secure the net firmly with the stakes. Understand?
Da, Colonel.
We don't use that title anymore, Dmitri. Forgive me, sir. It is vital that the netting be done quickly and correctly. We don't know how soon he might reawaken. When he does, there must be no possibility of a second escape. Do you think you and your fellow cowards can handle that, Dmitri?
Proskov's dark eyes narrowed, but he said nothing, turning instead with the others towards the steel mesh net. Kelly brushed snow from Troy's face. My God, she said. I thought you were dead. I nearly was. The tranquilizer kicked in just in time. Where did you shoot him with it? I couldn't see. Right up the crotch. She winced. Ouch, poor T-Rex. It had to hurt. I thought maybe he carried a little less armor blading there, and I guess I was right. Kelly looked over at the Tyrannosaur, its huge jaws open, its eyes closed, sleeping like a baby on the ice. I hope he's okay, she said. I don't think the tranquilizer hurt him much or the fall. In fact, he may be coming out of it any second. And he may not, Kelly frowned. That tranquilizer was designed for large mammals, not dinosaurs. I'd feel better if I waited until I knew he was going to be okay. Go ahead and play nursemaid. I'm clearing out of here. Now that Tarosh has what he wants, he's not going to waste any more time getting rid of us. Zalman's dead. Yeah, but those two other goons are still alive. Not that Tarosh would have any problems killing us himself, which reminds me. He struggled to his feet, teeth gritted against the pain. She helped him. You landed on your right side again. Yeah, I'm getting good at that. Does it hurt a lot? It's numb. I can't feel it or even move it. She felt the arm for him. It doesn't seem broken. He leaned over to examine the blood-streaked snow and ice. What are you looking for? Zalman's Makarov. Didn't the T-Rex? Yeah, he chomped off Zalman's arms, but he doesn't swallow everything he grabs hold of. Troy nodded at Zalman's head, which lay upside down in the snow. Kelly looked away. Distant voices reached them through the storm winds. They both looked up to see Proskov and the others dragging the steel mesh net towards them. God damn it, Troy muttered, turning back to his search for the Makarov. It has to be here somewhere. You can't fight Tarosh and his men with one handgun. The voices of the men with the net sounded closer now. I'm not trying to fight them. I'm planning to run like hell. I just want something to even the... Yes! He reached down and picked up the Makarov. Kelly stared at the gun, which was caked with snow and frozen blood. Will it shoot in that condition? Sure. The Makarov's one tough little gun. Red Army and KGB used it for years, along with thousands of terrorists. He slipped the gun into the pocket of his thermal suit. The men with the steel mesh net had almost reached them. Proskov pointed to the unconscious body of the Tyrannosaur. We'll have to play along with them, Troy said, lowering his voice, and help net the T-Rex. When we finally get back to the base, we'll go straight to the outfitting room and start packing our supplies. We have to leave here tonight. What if someone tries to stop us? He patted his pocket, the one with the Makarov. That's what this is for. Tarosh stood and observed the netted tyrannosaur beneath the glare of portable lights, still unconscious, a great saurian Gulliver, staked down by Lilliputians. Putins. Whatever.
Well done, Dimitri. Thank you, my sir. He does not escape now. Let's hope not. Where are Darrow and the girl?
They are... Proskov turned and looked around. They went back inside, Belin said after we finished.
Go check on them, will you please, Vladimir? I don't want them unattended. Not right now.
Belin nodded, then headed back towards
Deep Core Station.
Inside the outfitting room, Troy dropped a large coil length of nylon rope into an insulated backpack. He worked under the beam of a single flashlight, which left the rest of the room in deep shadow. Why so much rope? Kelly asked.
We're going to be climbing steep mountains.
Great. How steep?
Not as tall as the Transantarctic mountains of the interior, but they're not foothills either. Grab one of those things for me, would ya?
He pointed to a row of butane cylinders.
We need this much stuff? We need more. We don't just have room to carry it.
We're already taking food, water, extra clothes, thermal blankets, sleeping bags, rope. Now this butane gas? What do we need that for? Cooking?
Heating. You're the one who's always freezing whenever you step outside.
Who do you think we're going to feel after we've been out there for 12 hours? Will it take that long?
3 times that long, if we're lucky.
Where do you plan on using the butane gas? You can't just start a fire out in the open, can you?
No, but you can set up a stove behind a pile of rocks. Also, there are caves up in the mountains.
Caves? You already said we need to sleep for a few hours at a time.
True, but Tarosh's men will come looking for us. You can bet on that. We might need someone or someplace to lie low for a while.
Kelly tried to lift up her backpack. How much do these things weigh?
Yours? About 40 pounds. Mine's over 60.
I don't know how far I can carry 40 pounds.
You'll get to find out soon. Hand me one of those.
He pointed to a rack of ice axes against the wall. She passed one over to him. Why do we need these?
We'll be walking over ice, slippery stuff. Get an axe for yourself, Kelly, and a pair of those crampons, too.
I thought we were going to be wearing snowshoes.
For the deep drifts in the valleys, maybe. For the icy walls, we'll need crampons and axes.
Kelly sat down beside her backpack. It seems to me...
Darrow!
A voice called from behind the door.
Sawyer!
Kelly looked up at the locked door to the outfitting room.
If you're in there, the voice continued, answer me.
Kelly's arms widened in alarm. Troy raised a finger to his lips and shut off the light. The locked door rattled loudly in the sudden darkness.
Darrow! I know you're in there, the voice insisted. Open this door at once, or I'll break it down.
Troy,
Kelly whispered. He put a hand on her arm. Right here.
Who is that?
Sounds like Belin.
What are we?
Don't worry, I've got a few seconds left. Outside in the corridor, Belin turned to Tom Calhoun, who had been ordered to accompany him. Where is the key to this door? Callahan shrugged. Hell, you got me. There must be a key. Probably a key for every damn door in this whole place. But who knows where it is? Nobody locks doors around here. Someone locked this door from inside. Maybe it just locked itself by accident. Impossible. There's no key. I must shoot the lock. I'm sure if we look for it, Belin drew his Makarov and pointed it at the lock. Shine your light so I can see.
Jesus! Callahan raised his flashlight, wincing. Belin fired 4 times, gunshot ringing into the corridor inside the outfitting room. Kelly started to scream. Ah! Troy clamped a hand over her mouth. The 9mm bullets from the Makarov punching holes in the metal door. When Belin stopped firing, the lock and handle hung lopsidedly against the frame. He grabbed hold of the handle and jerked it loose, then shouldered open the door. Cordite fumes drifted into the outfitting room. Belin pressed the spring catch on the bottom of the Makarov's cross-hatched grip. He removed an almost empty magazine from the gun and inserted another fully loaded, locking into place with the heel of his hand.
Darrow!
He called out.
Sawyer! Are you in here?
Back behind a rack of hanging thermal suits, Troy and Kelly crouched next to bundles and blankets and sleeping bags. Troy took his hand from her mouth and whispered in her ear,
"Not a word, no matter how close he gets."
She nodded, eyes wide in the darkness. "Darrow! Sawyer! I know you're here! Answer me!" Belin's voice rang off the walls of the outfitting room. Callahan cleared his throat. "Maybe they—" "Shine your light around the room!" Belin ordered him. Callahan moved his flashlight over stacked up supplies. Long shadows danced across the room as the bell fell. The beam! Damn it! Long shadows danced across the room as the beam fell on ice axes, butane cylinders, and a rack of thermal suits hanging like ski clothes at a winter clearance sale. "Guess they aren't in here after all," Callahan said. "Give me that light." Belin took it from him and moved forward, flashlight in one hand, Makarov in the other. He began to go over the outfitting room carefully, examine it section by section. "I know they're here," he said quietly to himself. He stopped in front of a pile of blankets and shone the light down. Then he kicked at the pile of scattering blankets across the outfitting room. As Kelly drew closer to Troy, her foot scraped the floor. Belin looked up at the sound, moving the light with him until the beam fell on the rack of thermal suits. He walked over to it, crouching, slowly reached out to the Makarov, touching the first thermal suit on the rack. Using the gun barrel, he pulled the suit towards him. The hanger squeaked as it slid along the rack, the sound unnaturally loud in the shadows and half-light of the room. Troy felt Kelly start to tremble beside him. He squeezed her arm to reassure her, but it did not stop the trembling. Belin reached out and drew another thermal suit towards him. The hanger squeaked across the rack. Troy took out Zalman's Makarov, newly cleaned and oiled, gripped it with both hands, sighting on the light that shone through the thermal suits hanging in front of them. Belin drew another suit towards him. Troy took a deep breath and steadied the Makarov in his hands. Belin reached out for another suit. Beyond that hung two more. If he pulled back that suit, he should be able to see them hiding behind the other two. If he pulled back the next suit after that, he could not possibly miss them. Belin drew the next suit towards him. Troy rested his finger on the trigger. "Belin!" cried a distant voice from the outside of the room and further down the corridor. The suit squealed the rest of the way across the rack. "Belin!" the voice called, coming closer. "Where are you?" "In here," he muttered, reaching for the next to last suit. "Belin!" Proskov burst into the outfitting room, gasping for breath. "Report outside at once on the runway. Tarosh's orders." The barrel of the Makarov rested on the next to last suit. "Can't you see I'm busy?" "These are orders, comrade. Report outside." Belin struck the hanger with the barrel of his Makarov. Then he turned and walked towards Proskov in the doorway. The suit swung wildly on the rack like an out-of-control pendulum as Belin left the room, taking the light with him. Several minutes later, while Belin was busy shooting the lock off the outfitting room, Tarosh had been standing in the map room, warming his hands in front of a butane stove.
"Do you think it's possible," he asked Proskov, "to cross the Bransfield Strait in a launch in weather like this?" "I will do as you order, sir." "Yes, Dmitri, I know that. But what I want to know is whether it's possible to attempt a crossing right now. You've had naval experience off the Taimyr Peninsula and the Laptev Sea. What's your opinion?" "My opinion, sir?" "Signals!" Benson rushed into the room, a walkie-talkie in one hand. "We got signals coming through loud and clear!" Tarosh turned to him. "George, you're interrupting." "Listen!" He turned up the volume. The signals, neither loud nor clear, could barely be heard over the crackling static of the walkie-talkie. An aircraft was requesting permission to land. "George, ask him to give you his position." Benson spoke into the walkie-talkie. Static crackled back. He looked up, a grin breaking across his face. "He's right over us, requesting permission to touch down." "What's the condition of our runway?" Tarosh asked. Benson's grin disappeared. "Not good. All eyes stopped. Get every available man to help clear it." Benson nodded and started for the door of the map room. "Dmitri, go get Vladimir at once. And George?" Benson stopped. "Sir?" "Give the plane permission to land." And that is the end of Chapter 16. No, I lied. Chapter 15.
Chapter 16. Landing. Jeff Lyman, co-pilot of the 4-propeller Hercules LC-130 cargo transport, listened to the end of the transmission from Deep Core Station, then turned to his pilot, Stanley Griggs. Somebody's down there after all. Just gave us permission to land, but they want to clear the ice off the runway first. Bugger the ice, Griggs said. This bird's got skis. As the LC-130 started to descend, they could see the beams of portable lights cutting across the runway. Must have lost their power, Lyman said. It's the sodding weather they get down here. Griggs banked for a landing, taking them over the sedated Tyrannosaur, stretched out on the ice beneath the steel mesh net, illuminated by portable lights and orange flares. What's that? Lyman asked, pointed. Some kind of bloody whale. Doesn't look like a whale. What else could it bloody be? Big as it is. It's got one hell of a long tail. What of that? There's whales with long tails. You ever hunted whales? Pull 'em up. Look 'em right in the eye. No, then it's a whale, mate. Jimmy Fugit, standing watch near the sedated Tyrannosaur, heard the engines and looked up at the plane circling overhead. An LC-130, he said. Sal Vanetti squinted up at it. Yeah, so? So what? It could fly us out of here, this stinking rat hole. Forget it, man. It's probably just some survey flyover from the Navy base. It ain't landing here. The plane shifted gears then and continued its descent. See? Fugit pointed. Look at that. So I'm out of here, man. In your dreams. Ain't nobody leaving this place no time soon, except maybe for him. Vanetti nodded at the sedated Tyrannosaur, motionless beneath the steel mesh net, except for puffs of vapor rising from its nostrils at slow, even intervals. And if he goes, there ain't no room for nobody else. Oh no! My sourdough bread is ready. Please excuse me. My sourdough bread looks wonderful. Now back to our scheduled program. Oh, the hell with him. I hope he dies. Fugit shivered and glanced at the unconscious Tyrannosaur. One pale eye suddenly opened and seemed to stare back at Fugit with cold, clear-sighted malice. Hey! Fugit cried, turning to Vanetti. Look at that! Yeah, I know. Plane's coming in. Forget the plane! Look at him! As suddenly as it had opened, the eye closed shut. Vanetti glanced at the sedated Tyrannosaur, still as death. What about him? He opened his eye just now. He looked at me. Your head's getting messed up with all this cold air, Jimmy. Up yours. I know what I saw. Opened his eye. Yeah, well, tell you what. He does it again, you let me know, okay? Then I take this, Vanetti raised the tranquilizer gun, and knock out the mother cold. As Fugit turned to look at the gun, the Tyrannosaur opened its eye again, a narrow slit this time, watching them. Inside the outfitting room, Kelly was still trembling. Hold the flashlight a little steadier, please. He came so close. Don't let it get to you. It's over. Why did Tarosh want him out on the runway? Who knows? Maybe they think the LC-130 droned overhead, dropping down for a landing. Troy looked up where he was checking their backpacks. Son of a bitch. That's why they wanted him out there, Kelly said. She turned and started for the door. Troy put his hand on her shoulder. What's wrong? Don't you want to see who it is? It could be bringing food and medical supplies. It could... Sure, Kelly, it could be Salvation with propellers and wings attached. But Tarosh is still in charge of Deep Core Station. We need these backpacks and this gear. You don't think the plane's good news? I don't know what it is, and neither do you. Outside on the runway, the LC-130 skidded across the ice-covered ground on its skis, then taxied to a full stop. Tarosh walked up to meet Griggs and Lyman as they climbed down the cockpit, propellers still turning in the cold air.
Welcome to Deep Core Station. I'm Valentine Tarosh.
Pleased to meet you, mate. Stan Griggs. Jeff Lyman. We thought you were out of order down here, lights off and all.
We had a power failure a while back.
That's what they thought over on King George. Other men came up to the plane, talking in excited voices, laughing and shouting, pointing eagerly at the fuselage. Griggs waved to them. Jolly sods, aren't they?
They're pleased to see you. Tarosh said, you couldn't have come at a better time. We're almost out of supplies, and we have special cargo that needs to be delivered immediately.
What kind of cargo would that be, mate?
Tarosh hesitated. A large animal.
The excited voices died down. How large? Griggs asked.
About 20 feet. In length, 40 with the tail.
That's a bloody large animal, mate. Big as a whale, eh?
Yes,
Tarosh said.
You may say that.
Griggs nudged Lyman. What did I tell you? Lyman said nothing, his attention drawn to the appearance of the men near the plane, looking like wasted combat veterans. He noticed the frightened expressions that came over their faces when Tarosh mentioned the large animal. Would it be fair to assume, Griggs asked, that this animal's all trussed up proper-like and ready for shipment?
Yes. The actual loading should be a simple matter of...
A shattering roar sounded above the buildings of the central complex, accompanied by screams in the distance. Griggs and Lyman turned in that direction, startled and staring. The roar came again, cutting through the storm winds. The men near the plane began to scatter across the runway. The roar sounded again, closer now, as if approaching them. What the bloody hell is that? Griggs asked. Your whale, Lyman said. As the LC-30 was coming in for a landing, Sal Vanetti showed Jimmy Fugit how to work the tranquilizer gun. You just drop the dart in like this, see? Then you close up and hey, you're loaded for dino, man. How many of those things take it to knock them out? Just one or two. You heard how easy it was the last time. That thing killed Salmon and Morris before they managed to get him down. Yeah, well, they screwed up, okay? They lost it. A chuffing sound broke the air, like exhaust erupting from a massive tailpipe. Hey! Fugit turned around. Look! He's waking up! So, we just have to put him back to sleep. Watch. Vanetti stepped forward, raising the tranquilizer gun. The Tyrannosaur lay motionless beneath the steel mesh net, puffs of vapor rising from its nostrils. Relax, Jimmy. He just groaned in his sleep, that's all. Vanetti steadied the tranquilizer gun and took careful aim. The Tyrannosaur came to life with a thundering roar. The great beast rose to its full height at once, pulling up the stakes that held down the steel mesh net, ripping them loose from the frozen earth with a staccato ratcheting sound like the stutter of distant machine gun fire. Vanetti squeezed the trigger of the tranquilizer gun, but the dart did no good, whether deflected by steel mesh of the net or by the tough hide of the Tyrannosaur itself. The creature staggered, still somewhat unsteady, after its drug-induced sleep. It shook its head furiously beneath the net. You missed him, Fugit cried, vapor and spit flying from his mouth. Reload the goddamn gun and shoot it! That's what I'm trying to do, dickhead! Vanetti muttered, fingers clumsy as he reloaded its sub-zero cold, eyes glancing back and forth between the breech of the tranquilizer gun and the Tyrannosaur, shaking itself into full consciousness. With a deep, rumbling roar, the Tyrannosaur tossed off the net, even more expertly than it had done on the last occasion, outside the storage depot. The steel mesh rattled in the freezing air, coming down like a lead curtain on top of Fugit, knocking him to the ground. Fugit screamed as he fell, his arm raised inside the net. Vanetti jumped back in time to avoid the net, still holding the tranquilizer gun in his hands as he stared at the enraged beast above him. Holy Mother of God! Vanetti whispered. Holy Mother of God! Vanetti whispered. The Tyrannosaur stared back at him for several long seconds, yellow eyes cold and unblinking. Then it pounced on him, swift and terrible, great jaws coming down like the wrath of God. Vanetti screamed, echoes across the frozen landscape, striking terror into the hearts of men closer to the central complex, men who had already started running, glancing back at the sight of the Tyrannosaur, framed by smoking flares as it tore into Vanetti's body, blood squirting out in dark streams against the pale Antarctic night. The Tyrannosaur swallowed the last of Vanetti, smacking its jaws on the blood, squirting out in dark streams. I already said that. Then looked down at Fugit, who scrambled desperately beneath the steel mesh like a rat in a trap, trying to find some way out from under. It roared at him, hot breath billowing in the cold air. Fugit screamed and raised his hands again beneath the net, as if offering surrender or begging for mercy. The Tyrannosaur turned then and began sniffing the frozen earth, huge body bent low to the ground, long tail held out erect behind it. When it spied the tranquilizer gun lying on the ice, the beast let out an angry roar and snatched it in its powerful jaws, grinding the weapon to pieces, shattering the plastic housing, spitting out the fragments, snorting at them as they fell down to the ice. Then it turned back to Fugit, who shrieked in fear, "Ah!" and began to crawl on his hands and knees, trying to burrow his way out from underneath the net. The Tyrannosaur did not even bother to lift the net, but merely stomped on Fugit beneath the steel mesh, bringing its talon foot down 3 times in rapid, pulverizing succession. After letting out an echoing roar of triumph, the creature bounded across the snow and ice, the exhilaration of being free once again, and headed straight for deforestation, dark vengeance burning in its ancient heart. When the Tyrannosaur's roar sounded above the central complex, and the men began to scatter across the ice over runway, Troy turned to Kelly, both of them carrying backpacks and ice axes standing near the entrance, the mixed breed wolf at their side. "This is it," he said. "Stay back here at first, clear of the T-Rex. He's going to be starving after his sedation. He's got a banquet laid out for him on that runway."
"What if he sees us?"
"He shouldn't. Not with all the easy pickings out there. But if he does, follow me. We'll have to duck back inside until he goes away. I couldn't find another blowtorch. Tarosh must have taken the last one. It's the only defense that works."
"What if Tarosh or one of the other men see us?"
"Don't worry," Troy said, touching the Makarov.
"Look out!"
Kelly screamed. A huge talon foot came down over the top of the building then, crashing into the frozen runway ahead of them, sending up chunks of shattered ice high into the air. Troy fell back into the recessed exterior entrance, taking Kelly with him. The Tyrannosaur's second foot came down on the runway, making the earth tremble. Then it moved forward with lithe, bird-like steps, stalking the men on the runway. Troy pushed Kelly flat to the ground, falling with her. "Ow!" she cried, knees hitting hard ice. "What the?" His tail. The massive appendage cracked through the sub-zero air like a gargantuan whip, catching several men as they ran towards the outside entrance, crushing their bones, stripping flesh from their bodies, spilling them bleeding across the ice. Griggs and Lyman stood next to Tarosh beneath the LC-130, propeller still turning. "Bloody hell!" Griggs cried. "Let's take off!" Lyman said, glancing up at the cockpit. "Yes," Tarosh agreed. "At once!" Griggs frowned. "And leave all them poor sods to die?" "We'll manage as best we can. But you must get the plane in the air. The last time we had a cargo transport on the ground like this, the creature destroyed it on takeoff." Lyman sprang up the steps to the cockpit, not bothering to turn around to see if the captain was following him. "Look here, mate," Griggs said. "If I take off now, I ain't necessarily coming back, see? And as for your giant crocodile, I ain't flying him nowhere where he's in a mood like this." "Just get the plane in the air," Tarosh said, "then circle overhead. We'll signal you when it's safe to land again." "I don't know, mate." "For God's sake!" Lyman screamed down the cockpit. "Argue with him about it in the air, okay?" The Tyrannosaur's roar cut through their conversation like mortar fire. A man screamed as the terrible jaws lifted him up the runway and began to devour him alive. The beast caught sight then of the men next to the plane and roared at them, pieces of half-eaten humans dropping from its mouth. "Right," Griggs said, and hurried up the cockpit steps. The Tyrannosaur started for the plane, head lowered. "Dimitri!" Tarosh called. "The blowtorch!" Proskov lumbered across the runway towards him. Belin, who had grabbed the last 460 rifle before coming out, lifted the heavy gun and sighted the Tyrannosaur. "Vladimir!" Tarosh shouted at him. "Stop! Don't shoot!" Belin steadied his aim, finger on the trigger. "Put down that rifle!" Tarosh ordered, still shouting. "It has no effect. It will only enrage him." The propellers of the LC-130 increased to maximum revolutions per minute as the plane prepared to take off. "Vladimir!" Tarosh's scream was drowned by the prop noise. Belin squeezed the trigger. The 460 bucked in his hands. The report echoed across the runway, cutting through the propeller's drone, catching the attention of the Tyrannosaur. The great beast roared in irritation and turned to Belin. He worked the bolt of the 460 and fired again, but the heavy cartridge had no more impact than the last one. The creature roared again and increased its pace, coming towards Belin with a terrible, measured swiftness. Belin's nerve broke. He threw down the rifle and ran. The Tyrannosaur bellowed in excitement and gave chase. The LC began to taxi down the runway. "What if that thing tries to block us?" Lyman asked. "He's just a lizard, mate. He's not that bloody smart." Belin took cover behind Proskov, who had the blowtorch turned on its side by now and raised it before the advancing Tyrannosaur. The creature slowed its pace at first sight of the fire and hissed at it irritably. Proskov turned the flame up to maximum strength. The Tyrannosaur hissed again, tail twitching ominously. It lashed out with its tail, striking at Proskov and Belin. Proskov saw it coming and ducked. Belin jumped back. The Tyrannosaur moved its great head to the other side with a swiftness that had to be seen to believe. It caught Proskov with the front end of its snout and knocked him up in the air across the ice for distance over 20 yards. The blowtorch skidded across the ice, flame still burning. The Tyrannosaur stamped on it, crushing it into flaming bits of scrap metal. Belin fell, slipped, then got to his feet and ran. The Tyrannosaur roared and came after him. Belin ran across the ice-covered runway, feet skidding beneath him, and threw himself behind one of the skis of the LC-130, still taxiing slowly in the initial phase of takeoff. "Fool," Tarosh muttered to himself, then shouting, "Vladimir! Get out from behind there!" Belin paid no attention, but jogged sideways behind the skis, keeping the L-130 between himself and the Tyrannosaur, increasing his speed along with that of the plane. The Tyrannosaur crouched low, trying to see beneath the underbelly of the LC-130, hissing in frustration. Tarosh took out his Makarov, aimed, and fired at Belin. The 9mm bullet ricocheted off the ski strut. Belin ducked lower, but kept running behind the ski. Another man joined him in his desperate attempt, trying to move, using the moving plane as a shield. The Tyrannosaur kept up easily, with the plane's increasing speed, hissing at the men on the other side of the underbelly. "We got a bloody balls up out there," Griggs said, glancing down from the cockpit. "Lizard on one side, maniacs on the other. Increase the bleeding speed, mate." Lyman pushed the throttle all the way in. The men started running faster to keep up with the plane. The other man slipped and fell beneath the ski. The full weight of the 130 rolled over him, breaking his back, crushing internal organs. He screamed once, "Ah!" then lay still as blood spilled from his mouth, forming patterns on the ice. Belin kept running as the plane increased its speed. The Tyrannosaur hissed at him from beneath the plane, hot breath rolling across the metal underbelly. Belin grabbed hold of the ski strut and hung on. "No more bloody effing around," Griggs said. "Lift off!" He pulled back on the controls, bringing the nose up. The ski, with Belin hanging onto it, began to rise into the air along with the LC-130. Belin screamed and let go, dropping 10 feet to the ice below, skidding as he hit, left far behind by the slowly ascending plane. The Tyrannosaur looked up and roared in frustration as the plane passing overhead directly. "We're off," Lyman said, breathing a sigh of relief. "Not one bloody minute too soon, mate." The windscreen shattered as the Tyrannosaur's massive jaws burst into the cockpit. Flying glass lacerated the hands and faces of the men at the controls. Sub-zero winds whipped through the cramped interior, blinding them. Griggs clawed at his microphone. "Got it free!" "Mayday!" he screamed into it. "Bleeding effing mayday!" The great jaws grabbed him and pulled him out of the cockpit, taking the seat he was belted into along with him. Lyman tried to fly it alone, blinded by howling wind. What was left of the windscreen smeared with streaks of Griggs' blood and his own. He pulled back on the controls with all his strength. The plane pitched downward instead, nose forward, striking the runway, and the great jaws grabbed him and pulled him up out of the cockpit, taking the seat he was belted into along with him. Lyman tried to fly the plane alone, blinded by howling wind. What was left of the windscreen smeared with streaks of Griggs' blood and his own. He pulled back on the controls with all his strength. The plane pitched downward instead, nose forward, striking the runway at a 90-degree angle. The gas tanks beneath the fuselage blew, exploding orange clouds of flame. The Tyrannosaur fell back from the crashing plane, Greg's body in the pilot's seat in its jaws. The great beast hit the ice and rolled over several times, moving away from the fire. Then it got to its feet and roared in vindictive triumph at the burning wreck, Greg's body in the pilot's seat dropping from its jaws and bouncing off the ice below. Another explosion shook the LC-130, wrapping the entire plane in sheets of flames. The cockpit door burst open and Lyman jumped out, falling straight down to the ice-covered runway, blazing like a human torch. He began to run across the ice, screaming in agony, strong Antarctic winds whipping his flames into a frenzy. The Tyrannosaur roared at the burning co-pilot and crushed him down into the ice with one huge taloned foot, stomping on the body again and again until Lyman lay still on the ice, a smoldering corpse, flames extinguished at last. The great beast directed one more roar of triumph of the burning wreck of the LC-130, then turned back down the runway towards the last survivors of deforestation. And that is the end of Chapter 16.